Said you're like, well, yeah, I'm real old school, man. Like it's like someone made fun of me the other day because I was writing in a notebook. I was talking to Jason's friend, Daniel Presley, the other day, and we were talking about just presentations and stuff like that, and like going back and forth with like should you give away your PowerPoint presentations at events, or like should you record events? And I'm like, I'm not a fan of recording events. I don't like when we record these week-long webinars. I'm a fan of kind of like the moment, like, and we did this back in the day when we first started with Trading Power, where it's like, hey, like this is a live event. Like back in the day, right, before stuff was recorded, you had to be at the live event, right, to experience what was happening at the live event. Same thing with the online workshop, but we didn't record it. Like, look, if it's important, take the time to watch it. And I think there's something special about there being something, there's something special about the moment, in my opinion. I do a lot of meetings and presentations throughout the year, and none of them are recorded because I think there's something unique and just special about the moment, knowing that this is the moment. There will never, ever be a moment like this again. Does that make sense? It's intimate in a way, right? There will never be a moment like this again because you can never replicate something at the same time. I think there's something important to that for the people that are involved. From a business perspective, though, you also have to kind of bend and understand, like, hey, like we're not doing one-day webinars. Like we're doing week-long webinars. It's not realistic for someone to take like a whole week off of work. So that's, it's, and you got to understand that part. But we're debating about that, and when we got to the PowerPoint issue, somebody, of course, someone's like, yeah, man, like you should give out all your PowerPoint slides and put them on the website, stuff like that. I'm like, man, look, I'm a fan. Like, I don't want the PowerPoint slides. Like, if I'm coming somewhere to learn, I'm bringing a notebook, I'm bringing a pen, and I'm writing down stuff. And then someone writing down stuff, who does that? They should just email you the presentation. I'm like, well, it's not the same. If you just understand how humans learn, you're going to learn and retain much more from writing down, right? Because look, here's the process, right? You're only going to retain like what, 20, 30% of what you see on a PowerPoint. If I just give you a PowerPoint slide and you click through it, you're retaining 20% of it maybe. Because all you're doing is reading, right? It's visual, that's it. Think about if you have to write down. Think about the process that goes into writing stuff down, right? So I have to see it, I have to hear it. I then have to interpret it. I then have to send that message from my eyes and my ears. They go to my brain. It goes to my hands. I have to write it down, right? If you're like me, you write very, very sloppily, or maybe you're even rushed. I have horrible handwriting. So what I typically have to do is I have to rewrite it down, right? I also kind of write things in my same way, in a different way. Like I take notes in slang. Part of this because I didn't like study buddies in college. So like, I just hated that. I'm not very social when it comes. I don't want to be with you and study. Like, let me do my own thing. But I didn't want people kind of looking at my notes. So like, I write stuff in slang. So like, I'm from Philly. So I'll be like, this joint plus that joint equal that joint. Like that, right? That's how I talk and that's how I write. And it makes sense to me because I know what it is. Someone's reading it like, what is the joint? What is the joint, Akil? No, John. J-A-W-N. Right? So I'd write stuff like that, but I write it like it makes sense to me, or I'll draw like pictures. Like I have found a way, and I'm different. You guys know this. I have found a way to write notes in a way that relates to me. So I may even, like for science classes, I may even write sports references, right? I might write like Tom Brady plus Patriots equals Super Bowl, and I know exactly what that means. It's weird, I know, but it works for me. So I go through this process of I hear it, I see it, goes to my brain, and brain sends a signal to my hands, I write it. It's sloppy and coded in a weird way. To go back and to make sure I make sense of it, right? I go back and I always rewrite all of my notes. So I'll go through, it could be 20 pages of notes. I will go back and rewrite them, taking my time, rewriting them neater so I can read them. And that's another process, right? Now I'm reading it again, interpreting it again, writing it again, right? I'm doing this whole process over and over again. Think about how much that reinforces just the learning versus just looking at a PowerPoint. So that's something that has worked for me. I never studied for a test in my life, or traditionally. I just write notes over and over again. That is the way I've studied for tests, for better or for worse. I just continuously rewrite my notes as many times as needed. I don't go to books. I don't do any of that. Rewrite my notes over and over again. And it works for me. But I'm old school that way. Like I like, even with, when I do like training, if I do like a training course on charts, like I'm there drawing candlesticks by hand. Like if someone's teaching me about a higher high, higher close, I'm literally, you guys may want to give this a try. I'm literally taking my, I'm literally taking my notebook and I'm drawing out this, and I'm drawing out, you guys do this a lot. I'm drawing out that, right? And I'm drawing out a line there, and I'm being like higher high, higher close, and I'm writing that in my notebook. If you want to take it even older schooler, I've heard this from a lot of old professional traders, where it's like this, and a lot of this comes from before charts were available. You know what they used to do to really understand price action? And they said this is by far the best way to understand price. They would get some old school graph paper, and they would make their own charts. So each day, you can imagine this process takes a long time, but each day, right, you have all the information you need each day, right? Open, high, low, close, right? They would go to the newspaper at the time, right? And they would look at the open, high, the low, and the close of the session, and they would literally, on graph paper, draw their own candlestick based on that information. And they said, I've never done this, but they said it's amazing I guess how it helps you learn about price action and the interpretation. I don't have the time to do that because, if you're doing a day at a time, it's, that's a long time. You're investing like a month. You only have like 30 candles. But it's interesting. It's interesting, the writing down part. But even when training, I drew out charts in my notes. And I did it handwritten. I guess if you're creating it, you're on your own in the computer, I guess that kind of counts as handwritten. But the fact is, you're active. You're active with reinforcing those ideas. So good stuff. We should get back to Aussie. Cody got short. Let's finish up on Aussie and we'll take our break. Same when it comes to book, I prefer to read them rather than listen. Yeah, I can't. I'm so far behind on my books because I did audiobooks for like a year and I just can't retain the information. I mean, I was happy. I blew through like 20 books and I was on the internet like, yeah, I read that. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, I read that. But I couldn't retain anything. I have to read it physically. Like I got joy. It's weird. I got joy this morning after our conversation. I said, hold on, let me check some stuff by Adam Grimes. I really got joy from physically. I went and I physically grabbed the book, right? I felt it with my hands. I went to, what is it called at the end, the glossary or whatever, and I actually searched for something in a book. And I flipped the pages and the sensation of hearing that, and I read it. Like, I don't know what it is, like something like that. I think I don't like, you can't do that with an audiobook. Maybe you can, maybe I'm wrong. I guess maybe you can. They have like a electronic table of contents that you can click on and it goes right to the page, but you can't search like that on an audiobook. So I don't want to say one's better or worse because I haven't finished the book in like 20 years now, but yeah. You can get through the audiobook quicker. So maybe it depends on what type of book you're if it's more of a reference guide, if it's something like a trading book, I think physical is the way to go. If it's like trading psychology, where you don't need to look at anything, and then definitely audiobook can be beneficial. So I also don't have a good attention span, so that's another thing, as you guys can tell. So I get very distracted with audiobooks. That's a big thing as well. So that's kind of knowing yourself. I get distracted because when I read, I then try to interpret it to my own life. I'm like, how can I use this? And then in a real book, I can at least like close the book and think about it. Audiobook, I never pause it. It just keeps going on before you know it's like 3 chapters later. So, all right.